Welcome to the Schulich Startups Podcast, Episode 3, coming to you from the Rob and Cheryl McEwen Graduate Study and Research Building here at the Schulich School of Business. And today we're joined by our special guest, Jane Lee from LaunchPop,
Hello.
alumna, back in the building for the first time.
Yeah, it's been like 7 years since I've been back.
Welcome
Crazy.
back.
Yeah,
We're
a lot has changed. It looks beautiful now.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
great.
We're this room, the bridge, is where we do our podcast. It's pretty cool. We've got our co-host, Vito Giovannetti, founder of Treasured, startup, away to the races, up and coming, doing amazing things, story for another time, and the head of the Schulich Entrepreneurial Alumni Association.
Thank you, Chris.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Congrats.
We're doing some fun things. Yeah.
No.
Actual position.
It's great. I get to meet all of the aspiring and existing entrepreneurs in our ecosystem. And yeah, we'd love to get you more involved going forward.
Yeah.
cool.
So great to have you here. Now, earlier today, you were on campus for SHAD,
Yes.
a program that you yourself were part of, speaking to high school students, a lot of 14 and 15-year-olds. We'll talk about that later. They had amazing questions. But
Yeah.
it made me think, could you kind of reflect back, after watching them today, when you were back at that high school age, what did you know you were going to be an entrepreneur? Was there some other career you had in mind early on that you were thinking about that before you wound up here?
Yeah, I think my father is an entrepreneur, and I honestly feel like entrepreneurship is actually something in your blood. If you watched it growing up, then you're more inclined to feel more comfortable with it and be more, I guess, risky in your life. And so watching my dad grow up as an entrepreneur, I was like, that's interesting. He can just choose to do something and make it happen. Maybe I could do the same thing. And so I think I got a lot of inspiration from him growing up. I didn't know exactly when I would start it or what it would be, but I always had at the back of my head that I would be doing something on my own, at least once in my life. Yeah.
And that led you to Schulich, and you kind of had to choose.
Yeah.
Where did you focus in?
Yeah, so initially, actually, I was like in a K-pop group, like a Korean pop group when I was younger. So
Rumors
I was
were
like,
that you had some amazing dance moves. I heard.
yes, I was like an amazing pop and locker and rapper. I know I don't look like it, but I was like so good at it back then. And that was supposed to be my career, but my parents didn't really want me to go into that path, and so they asked me to stay in school and go to a business school. And so I was like, sure, I'll go to Schulich, and I'll get into entertainment, but in the business side of things. And so I went into Schulich, and I was looking around. I didn't really find anything that really grabbed my attention. Like I looked at finance, accounting, etc., but marketing definitely did, because initially I thought marketing was only kind of like ad agency stuff, but then I realized that brand management was actually more owning a P&L, owning the business, touching everything like supply chain, finance, accounting, marketing, creative. And so I really wanted to kind of learn the overarching kind of sense of business, and then later on go into owning my own business.
And like so many entrepreneurs, you had your first moment after you were graduated. You were out there in the world, and you had your first idea for the original business. You want to tell us the story of how that came to be?
Yeah, I mean, actually, originally I was at Pepsi and General Mills doing brand management, so I got some great ground training there. And then it was actually in New York when I started my first business. So I'm not sure if you guys know, because you two are males, but women use something called a sticky bra when they wear something backless. And so I remember it's like my 25th birthday. I had rented out like a booth at a club, and I had bought this one bra from Victoria's Secret, and I had put it on. It's just like a bra without any straps, and it has skin-friendly adhesive, and you just kind of like stick them onto your boobs, and you can do whatever. So I was at the club dancing and sweating, and this bra fell off. Like it literally fell off. And so the next day I was kind of like, okay, what the heck? Why did I have this moment with a $90 bra? And so, doing some more research, I found that there was only one company that had dominated this niche market. And the way that they were kind of winning was that their B2B strategy was awesome. So they had white labeled the bra, sold it to Victoria's Secret, but their direct to consumer was really poor. So they had a stale brand, no social media presence. I saw a huge white space there at that point, and I was like, screw it. I'm going to try to make something better. And so I just quit my job, went to Shenzhen, China, spent a month there creating a bra that was stickier, and brought it back to Canada and started the business on Shopify.
Wow. That was like a moment of inspiration that led to cool things.
Yeah, it was. And like, it's interesting because like I look at it now and I'm like, wow, I had a lot of guts, you know, like I don't think I could do that now. Like back then I had so little to lose and I was so daring and so adventurous. I was like, yeah, let me do it. And so there's definitely something to be said about starting something when you're young and you have like less to lose and you have more energy and etc. So
yeah, great moment. And that one, you sold it at a certain point, and then you wound up going to Shopify to work as one of their entrepreneurs in residence and like bring that insight there.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Shopify, of course, you guys all know about the company, but I joined at a pretty cool time when it was still kind of startup-ish. And so I was able to kind of work on all these different great projects, one of them which is the Kylie Jenner pop-up. So that was really interesting. Working on anything like new projects, new special projects, and I got to know everyone there, which really helped when I started my current company, LaunchPop.
And the genesis of like so much with LaunchPop now, which let's get into, maybe give us the elevator pitch for that.
Yeah.
But it was really these like early lessons through the first company and then through like, you know, probably some of what you saw at Shopify that you realized that there was a big opportunity for you to take your talents. I we're hearing you speak this morning, you talked about telling the students to find their superpower.
Yeah.
And these were the days where you were starting to find your superpower. So what was that superpower and how did it start to turn into LaunchPop?
Yeah, I remember being at Shopify and being very kind of introspective and thinking about like, okay, what have I been really good at, and what has been like the track record that I've left behind, and what do people tell me that I'm consistently good at? And I realized it's like every single person that launches a company, they always come to me for advice. And it was weird because, I had a company before, but even before that company, people were asking me. It just seemed like something natural for people to do. And so I was like, damn, I might be good at launching companies. And it seemed like a lot of people who resonated with me were entrepreneurs. Because I feel like my whole entire life, I felt very different. Like I would go to high school or elementary school and I wouldn't fit in. Like when I was at General Mills or Pepsi, I actually didn't feel comfortable. I didn't fit in with everyone. Yeah. And I just felt like I was like alone. I was like, why do I feel this way? And it's because I think innately inside of me, I was like truly entrepreneurial and I just needed to find people that were entrepreneurial. And so I think all those things together made me realize, oh, my superpower might be launching and helping entrepreneurs. It was just like a bunch of gathering data points from all my experiences that really helped. But always being self-aware of myself, because that's like something that's super, I think, important.
Vito, you're working with the community of entrepreneurs here, and a lot of that must resonate with you, what Jane's just talked about there.
Yeah, absolutely. It resonates as an entrepreneur and knowing up-and-coming entrepreneurs in our ecosystem, but even the experience as a student. You know, what you're sharing is a lot of the same things that I felt. I graduated from Schulich and I worked at Sun Life Financial, and it was an amazing experience, just like I'm sure you got from, you know, Pepsi, right? It kind of like laid the groundwork for you to make that decision to take that risk, to do something that you were passionate about, and you knew that the business opportunity based off your education was ripe for taking advantage of. So for the students out there, like the BBAs and the IBBAs of undergrad, that realize that they feel different too, right? They have that entrepreneurial fire and sort of starting to burn. What message would you give to them, like, in terms of making that decision between going corporate or, you know, taking the risk and starting their own company?
Yeah. So first, I would like to say that, like, I'm so happy to see that Schulich has created so much space for entrepreneurship. And obviously, Chris, a lot of kudos to him for doing that. Because for me, because there wasn't a lot when I was growing up, I felt really alone and felt like there was no support, and I felt like a loser, right? But now that there is, I'm really glad that there's a community of people that can help support people who feel different, that want to do different things. When people ask me, like, when should I go, like, and start my own thing or whatnot, I always tell people, like, oh my God, it's the hardest thing in the world to start something.
Yeah.
So if you literally, like, you have an itch, everyone has an itch to do something, especially nowadays, right?
For sure, yeah.
And if that itch continues, even after you do a side hustle, and it just like becomes a rash that you literally can't live without and you can't sleep, then go start it. But if you can itch that itch with something like a side hustle or just like conferences or books, then don't start something, because it's so hard. And today I was actually talking about it.
I love that advice.
I talked to like all these people about my entrepreneurial journey, and people see like Forbes and like they see all these podcasts, but like they don't see the real journey that I had.
For sure.
So one is like, my first company, my co-founder left, and so I had to buy her out. We went through legal battles. I was in debt, a ton of debt. The Launch Pop, when we first started, I went through legal battles too. We were in so much personal debt because we didn't take any investments. I literally had to sell all my clothes to get money to pay like our finance person. It just like, it was so bad. I would like cry. There was like moments when I just like felt like, because like all people saw was like this glorified stuff on the press, but really I was just like struggling so much because that was just the outside. What was happening internally in the business was different, right?
Totally.
So I almost felt also like I had an identity crisis because I had to act really happy and like everything was going well outside, but then when I went inside, it wasn't doing that well. And so I struggled with that a lot just internally for me. And so like that's all the stuff no one sees, right?
For sure, yeah.
And like you have to be willing. Like I always ask founders or potential founders, I'm like, are you willing to go into debt? Like I'm talking 50K.
That's a good question, yeah.
I'm talking 50K personal debt that you probably won't get out of for the next 3 to 4 years. Are you willing to take a salary of like anywhere from 20 to 40K a year into your 30s? Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to give up drinking with your friends? Are you willing to not buy anything? A lot of them say yes, but I know that when they go home, they're like, hell no. You know?
Yeah,
so
totally.
It's like, if you say yes to every single one of those questions because the problem or the business that's solving a problem is that like life changing and you think this is like something that you can dedicate your life to for the next 10 years, do it. Yeah. And like get funding and be thoughtful about how you take those risks. But
how did you like, something that really resonated with me there is that you talked almost about like putting on that mask as the founder, where you're out there having to like be bright and shiny and successful because that next person you're talking to may be your next investor or customer
totally,
or be the person who leads you to there, right? But then you go home and you have to like struggle with those things. We've all been through that. How do you keep going through that? There's a lot of conversation now about mental health and people being more open about talking about hard times, failures. What are your thoughts in terms of what's got you through that, or when if there is a founder who's listening to us and they're in that moment, how do you think they can pull through or connect?
Yeah, I think I'm really lucky enough to co-found Launchpop with my co-founder Eva. And so having a co-founder is very helpful from an emotional perspective, right? Obviously, finding a co-founder, that's a whole other podcast, right? Like what you should be looking for, what's important to talk about. But she's helped me a lot. Like when she's down, I'll be more up. When she's up, I'll be more down or whatnot. So she's really helped with that. But two, it's like also, it's hard because like obviously I can give all this advice of like, surround yourself with other startup people, reach out to people, have coffees, don't feel alone, et cetera, et cetera. But it's actually real, like this mental health stuff with entrepreneurs, very, very real. They did this study, I was reading on an article where like entrepreneurs they're more emotional and they also are more likely to go through depression and they have all these like different traits about them, right? I think you have to guard yourself and your mental health more than anything. And if that means you have to go raise more money and start giving yourself a salary, if that means giving up equity or taking some time off and then asking your investors, hey, I need this time off because I'm not good. It sucks for the company for a little bit, but you have to put yourself first because you, as a founder, you are the company.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great advice.
It's incredible advice. Yeah, it's dead on. I don't think I've heard it so well articulated before on a mic. So I'm really happy for all the people that are going to be listening to this to understand the dimensions of like what this journey really is about as a founder and how to find your balance, right? And being able to step away is extremely important for yourself and for the company, I think, in the long run. So yeah, thank you for that because I think we can make that into a clip that we share to every student in every entrepreneurship class here at the school.
That's great, yeah. And like this, there's like a lot of hype around grind, Like
Yeah.
the word grind. It's like, yeah, grind till you die. It's like, yeah, okay. No, don't, right? Like, I think you have to be very, very
grind
thoughtful
and
of
rest, grind and
Yeah.
recover, grind
Yeah.
and recharge.
And just because you're working until 5 a.m. doesn't mean you're killing it.
Yeah.
It really doesn't.
For sure.
Yeah. Now we want to get into that moment where you talked about your co-founder. You went to LA. You
Yeah.
set up LaunchPop. Tell us about LaunchPop and why. First of all, tell us a teeny bit about
Yeah.
what it does and why it just like is that thing that lights up your eyes still.
Yeah, so LaunchPop is a venture studio. So we work with high potential founders to launch their direct to consumer businesses. So the founder will come to us, and then our whole entire team will do everything, literally from like design, website optimization, community, content, paid acquisition, PR, influencer marketing, growing it, and then also getting them to a stage where they have the right metrics to get funding. So we actually have a network of investors in LA that we introduce to. So it's almost like a matchmaking thing.
Wow.
We help with the VC deck, the financials, because we've made a template so far. So it's like an incubator.
Yeah.
We do take a percentage of equity of every single company that we take. And we're actually very picky about who we work with as well, just because we want our portfolio to be lucrative later on. And so we make sure that we choose the right people to work with.
What are you looking for when people are like, when you look back across the ones that are your winners and that you feel great about? Is there something that kind of like, now I sort of look for XYZ?
Yeah. So when I meet with founders now, I look for two things. So one is like they are just obsessed about solving a problem. So that's one thing. Two is like, and I guess like three things, but the second thing is like they're in it for the right reasons, right? So a lot of founders will come to me, and then say like, I want to start this company. And later on, I realize it's just because they want to change their LinkedIn to CEO/founder.
Yeah.
There's so many people like that out right now, right? I'm like, nope. So they have to be in it for the right reasons.
Right.
And three, they have like a really good sense of like growth and like a technical side to them, right? So like half their brain is obsessed with their product, half their brain is obsessed with metrics and how to grow. Because like it doesn't mean you have to be good about it. It just means that you have to have curiosity around it and actually be very observant and obsessed with your metrics, because that's what will get you the right amount of funding, et cetera, later on. We also look at the product that they're trying to launch. It actually has to have some kind of innovation. It can't just be a product with a pretty brand on it. It has to have innovation behind it, because these days it's like there's so many companies out there, and a lot of people are just sticking like D2C or branding on it and saying like we're different. We don't accept people like that.
The other part of your business that's interesting to me and build on a bit more is the venture network that you've put together.
Yeah.
Now, I think a lot of people who are going to be listening to this as students and recent grads, they're kind of like, they're stuck in like, Toronto and their world and who they know and their personal network. But on top of everything else that you've done, it's infinitely impressive that you went to LA and built that network and got out there. So was that hard? Was what was the key to actually breaking into that community in that part of the world?
Yeah, so the first year that I launched LaunchPop with my co-founder Eva, we launched 4 pretty amazing companies. One is Morning Recovery. It's a hangover drink. We launched it, made $1 million in 3 months, and then he went on to get funding of $8 million. The second one is Rael. It's an organic pad and tampon company. We launched theirs, and then they got $20 million in funding. We launched one called Daily Gem and Hydrant. They both got a lot of funding, and we went to LA and we just let our work speak for itself.
Yeah.
We just like launched these companies and provided value by just doing the work, and then investors came to us. So it wasn't us being proactive about it. All of a sudden, investors were kind of like, who is LaunchPop? They keep on launching these companies that we're investing in. Who are they? We want to invest in all of the companies that they launch because we're de-risking their investment, right? By doing their marketing and digital stuff.
Yep.
So they started coming to us, and then we kind of stuck to our guns and kind of just were busy just launching companies. And I think it was a very authentic way to go about things because we had a lot to back up what we were talking about. And then eventually what ended up happening was I took a large role in creating this network. And so I host a lot of dinners and I host like pitch competitions. I recently had one in collaboration with Shopify in LA. So there were like 150 people that came, 10 startups that pitched for 140K and a year's worth free of Shopify.
Wow.
And, you know, like Launchpop organized it. And I've taken a big role in creating that community for investors and startups because there has been a big gap, even in that city, right? And so yeah, it just like, it started happening kind of organically. And I think us being like Canadians, my co-founder and I are Canadians, we're very like genuine and very transparent about our work and what we do and what we can't do. And I think that was very refreshing for the LA community to see. They're like, oh my God, they've actually, and also they're honest.
Love it. Love it. Fantastic
great.
strategy.
And we always say it's because we're Canadian.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
always say that.
That's good.
People,
I love that.
you know, fantastic strategy. Find your superpower. Make sure that the world sees it, and they come to you. Last question before we wrap up. You had some time today with some of the Schulich founders, some of the great female founders from our community. Just any like, what was it like to come back and like, you know, here you are, like you said, 7 years later, you're coming back and like coaching people and spending time with them. You must get a lot of energy from like connecting with people in that way.
Oh my God, I do. It's like, it reminds me why I'm doing this again, right? It's like, yes, I love working with founders and I love my company, but then when I'm able to like take a step back and see how many founders are coming from the school and all this young talent and the future of the world and innovation, it just like makes me feel so good. And it makes me want to give back more, right? Because like I think about all the times when I was younger and people took a chance on me when I had nothing. I literally had no clout, I had nothing, and I'm like, wow, those people were awesome. I want to do that for all these younger people. Not even younger, just like people who want to get into entrepreneurship, right? And I love what you're doing, Chris. Like, you are just killing it. I'm so glad that Schulich has an entrepreneurial arm now. It's so important because, like, there's so much potential here in this school. The students are brilliant. They just need the right ecosystem and the right people to show them that they are able to do it, because half the battle is confidence, right, into doing your own thing.
I
Well,
think
thank
that-
you for
yeah.
that. Like, you know, on behalf of Vito and myself, it's people like you who are coming back, spending their time and making the community and what the students and the next generation of entrepreneurs that we're building here at Schulich really like value and appreciate is having those aspirational stories and those genuine interactions. And I can tell you that everyone who came out of the room today from their time with you, whether it was the high school students that were here earlier or the Schulich founders that were here, you just gave them such an energy and such a light and such a you know, you added to what's inside them with your time with them. We really appreciate it. Thank you. People can find you at Launchpop on Instagram. Where should they hook up with you?
I
Follow you?
mean, add me on LinkedIn, Jane Lee. I'm sure there's a million Jane Lees though. So Jane Lee Launchpop, the most common. Anyways, or add me on Instagram. I'm also super responsive there. So it's just Jane Lee 16, and then follow Launchpop's Instagram, which is launch_pop.
Okay, Vito, thank you once again.
Thank you.
Jane, amazing.
Thank
That's our
you.
3rd episode of the Schulich Startups podcast, and we're out.